One of my favorite kinds of videos to watch are those ones where they have brought the people out for America's Got Talent or UK's Got Talent or whatever. You see them all over the world, the Got Talents and the American Idol and things of that nature. And the judges see this person come to the stage and they look at each other with that look like, are you kidding me? Really? This guy, this girl? Susan Boyles was one of those. There have been many, many others. I watched a few of those videos yesterday on my lunch break, and one of the guys that I watched was 34 years old or so. I believe 34 is what he said. And he lived at home with his grandma and hadn't had a greatly successful life. And, he had kind of a gravelly voice. And when he took the stage, he was shaking so bad, I thought he was going to throw the microphone across the stage. He was so nervous. And he told the story, the backstory that they show when they put these little clips together. He's standing in the crowd and he's talking to the interviewers. And he said, probably a dozen times I've filled out the entire application and put it in the envelope to send it, and I've ripped it up instead. He said, all my life I've loved singing, but people have told me, don't bother. You're no good at this. That's not you. And over again, I've given up. I've just decided that if I'm going to sing, I'm going to sing for me. But my grandma is now almost 80, and I want to do this as much for me as for her. But I think if there's a chance, if I have a chance to have a chance, I want her to see it before she's gone. It's a real emotional, real heartstring tugging thing. And the last thing you want to see is somebody who finally gets up the courage to get past all the naysayers, all the people who said, you are not who you think you are. All the people who accused him of being a failure, who pointed at him directly and said, you are this job, this place that you live, this name that you have, this family that you grew up in. That's who you are. This dream of being a singer it's a joke. It's far away from you. It's not going to happen. You don't want to see that person finally muster the courage to get on the stage and then bomb. But the day of, he walks out there, tears streaming down his face. He said, I didn't realize there were going to be this many people here. Something in me always wanted to sing in front of a crowd, but I didn't know the crowd was going to be this big. And he's red-faced and tears streaming down his face and his hand shaking like he was ready to throw the microphone. And he chose a song from the 70s that has been done so many times by so many people. You would think, wow, could it get any more mundane? I mean, he needs a superstar breakout. He needs a, wow, look at me moment. And instead, he's got the most boring song selection you could possibly fathom. And he's already shaken, and he's already crying, and he hasn't even started yet. And then you see the look to the judges, and they're looking at each other like, is he for real? I mean, he's really going to try to do this in front of all these people. And then the note of the song starts. And as he starts to sing, this incredible voice comes from inside him. Everybody in the room is on their feet. By the time he finishes, the judges look at him and said, why did it take you so long to get to this stage? What have you been waiting on? He said, so many people have told me there's no chance for me. That I wasn't who I thought I was, that I wasn't going to make it. And the judge says, do you see these people standing up? You stole the show today. No one else will get this kind of response. No one else will move the hearts of the people. No one else could have done what you did here and now. Now, I want that to be an illustration for your own life. I want you to look at yourself and say, what is my here and now moment? What is this breakout that I need? What do I have in my hand? What is it that I should be loving the people with that I've been hiding out of fear of my own success for so long? What am I holding on to that I'm not giving away? What is that? But I also want you to understand that You wouldn't be the first and you won't be the last who were surrounded by throngs of people telling them, you are not who you say you are. Whatever this thing contrived in your mind is that tells you that you're going to be some big success, it's a lie. When the people are telling you that, you need to get back to your Creator and ask the one who made the thing what the thing was made for. Now, how do I know that? Because they did the same thing to Jesus himself. John chapter 8. This argument is going on, and it starts with, he says, if you'll do what I tell you to, you'll be free. And they're like, listen, buddy, hey, back up a minute. We're the seed of Abraham. We're the Hebrews. Don't you know? We were delivered from slavery when we came out of Egypt. We've been slaves to no one. Nobody enslaves us. He said, yeah, but you're really a slave of a different kind, because the slave isn't free to come and go as they think. The Son is. And if the Son sets you free, because the Son has the authority of the Father, then you'll be truly free. You have not been set free by the Son. So you're still a slave. You're a slave to sin. Anyone who does the work of sin is a slave to sin. It's just the way it works. Sin is your slave master. And they push back even harder. And so this, read through John chapter 8. I won't read the whole thing to you, but this battle goes back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. They call him a liar. He says, you're the children of the liar. Your father isn't God. Your father isn't Abraham. Your father is Lucifer himself. Your father doesn't know how to do anything but lie. Well, that was a bit inflammatory. You know, we don't always say in public what we're really thinking in our heart. Sometimes we have to filter that a little bit so we don't create a riot. Jesus was antagonizing them significantly by telling the truth. Did you get that? Sometimes that happens to believers today. Telling the truth antagonizes the crowd. Telling the truth is like pouring salt in the wound. Telling the truth is like finding that one thorn sticking out of their hand and just rubbing your finger back and forth across it. Telling the truth can really get people's dander up. Telling the truth can really offend people. And when you tell the truth, even in love, doesn't mean that you back off of what the truth is. That doesn't mean you're harsh about it either. But Jesus, walking love, walking compassion, walking mercy, the embodiment of the Father God, says, look, your father's the liar. Your father's the devil. You tend to do what your father does. And that's why you're in slavery. You're in bondage to sin. If you knew who I was, you would follow me. Down here it says, if God was your father, you would love me, for I came from God and arrived here. I didn't come on my own. He sent me. Why can't you understand one word I say? Here's why. You can't handle it. You're from your father, the devil, and all you want to do is please him. He was a killer from the very start. He couldn't stand the truth because there wasn't a shred of truth in him. When the liar speaks, he makes it up out of his lying nature and fills the world with lies. I arrive on the scene, I tell you the plain truth, and you refuse to have anything to do with me. Can any of you convict me of a single misleading word, a single sinful act? But if I'm telling you the truth, why don't you believe me? Anyone on God's side listens to God's word. This is why you're not listening, because you're not on God's side. The Jews then said, that clinches it. We knew it. We were right all along when we called you a Samaritan. You're crazy. You're demon-possessed. Jesus said, I'm not crazy. I simply honor my Father while you dishonor me. I'm not trying to get anything for myself. God intends something glorious, grand here, and making the decision that will bring it about. I say this with absolute confidence. If you practice what I'm telling you, you will never have to look death in the face. At this point, the Jews said, now we know you're crazy. Abraham died, the prophets died, and you show up saying, if you practice what I tell you, you'll never have to face death, not even a taste. Are you greater than Abraham? Are you greater than the prophets who died? Abraham died. Who do you think you are? Jesus said, if I turn the spotlight on myself, it wouldn't amount to anything. But my Father, the same one who you say is your Father, put me here at this time and place of splendor. You haven't recognized You haven't recognized him in this, but I have. If I, in false modesty, said I didn't know what was going on, I would be as much of a liar as you. But I do know, and I'm doing what he says. Abraham, your father, with jubilant faith, looked down through the corridors of history and saw my day coming. He saw it, and he cheered. The Jews said, "You're not even 50 years old, and Abraham saw you?" "Believe me," Jesus said, "I am who I am long before Abraham was." And that did it. That pushed them over the edge. They picked up rocks to throw at him, but Jesus slipped away from the temple. Now, this argument has been going on for quite some time in the temple, arguing about who is this Jesus? Why does he keep doing these miracles? All these people come around. The Jews keep resisting him. He says, "I am the one from the Father. The Father sent me for this time. I know what I got to do." And the Jews said, "You're nuts. This moment of glory that you think is coming, you're just a demon-possessed Samaritan. I don't know what kind of man you think you are. You think you're not going to die? Abraham died. You think you're not going to die? The prophets died. Oh, you're going to die." And he says, "No, if you just believe what I'm telling you, you won't even face death. You don't even taste death." Those are hard words to hear. That's a hard truth to understand, to get your hand around. Well, let me tell you something. There's a divine moment that's appointed for you as well. A moment where Jesus looked down through history, like Abraham who encountered Jesus before Abraham was born. "I am." Those were the words of Jesus. Jesus has been and will be eternally everlasting. We are everlasting, meaning we are not going to die. The only question is, when you face eternity, will you face it with Jesus or in opposition to him? Will you find yourself in the presence of God or not? Heaven or hell? Are you of the Father who brought Jesus to this earth? Or are you of the Father who's been lying about it all along? While you're on this earth, though, which one will you serve? Will you be a slave to sin or a son of righteousness, a daughter of righteousness? Will you live out what God says is true about you, all the gifts and all the talents and all the strengths and all the purpose? Will you do what he called you to do with what he put in your hand? Will you love the people he called you to serve? Jesus said, "I could move the spotlight. If I turned the spotlight on myself, it wouldn't amount to anything. But my Father, the same one who sent me here, has put me here for this time and place. You haven't recognized him, but I have. If I, in false modesty, said I didn't know what was going on, I would be as much of a liar as you." Have you believed the false modesty? That it's not time for you to do what God's called you to do, that you're not the person God says you are because the crowd says otherwise. Trust me, there were a large crowd arguing with Jesus. Jesus knew who he was. He knew who his Father was. He knew what his assignment on earth was. He knew what he had to get done. And even to the point that his truth agitated and inflamed the crowd, to the extent that they grabbed rocks to stone him to death. He told that truth. He lived what God told him to be true about himself. And I want to challenge you to do the same thing. Are you living the life God called you to live? Are you believing what God said about you? Or are you believing the lie and living in bondage to sin? No one can make that decision but you. And no one can live the life God called you to with the gift, the power, the strength to do what he sent you here to do in your assignment from heaven. I am Loren Norris, and you've been watching Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day.